worst font.
So stupid. Thank you, Kristen Kelly.
Hi, Kristen. Good morning.
For this topic. Good morning.
We're here to talk about terrible fonts.
Yes.
Do you have a terrible font that you're because here's the thing. Kristen Kelly, was it that sent this? Kristen wrote, or did you write this in our Google Doc? Worst font, parentheses, there's only one correct answer.
I think maybe I added it, but it's possible that she did.
Because I think there is one font that is generally regarded as the worst.
Yes.
By our friends and our friends' friends. And it's sort of like zeitgeist worst font.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's the one. I don't think that's the worst font.
You're talking about Comic Sans.
I am talking about Comic Sans.
Well,
that's a tough one too. Let's just dive right in.
Yeah. I would say before we even throw anything out, I'm curious what would make something the worst. Certainly it has to be visually displeasing.
Yes.
It has to be unpleasant to look at.
Overuse
is one. And also I think there's a sense that you get from it that's sort of a combination of these two, where when you see this font, you think it's either a placeholder or it's just someone who doesn't know anything about fonts at all. Like there's just something that feels first draft about it when you see it.
Right. About Comic Sans in particular.
Comic Sans.
But the one,
and a few of the others that I'm sure we'll discuss.
Curls MT can go right to hell.
But you can see that in, it's so interesting to be doing a podcast. It's striking me now about things that
is completely visual. So everybody, please, I hope, while you are driving, you have a piece of paper with all of the fonts printed on it.
Right in front of you. Just put it on the windshield.
Yeah.
Because that's safer. You need both your hands to drive.
The thing is though, I don't think that this is necessarily a visual episode.
Okay.
Because some of these are onomatopoetic.
Okay.
What do you think is the most onomatopoetic font name? I have mine that just popped into my head.
I think it's well,
I mean, Curls MT with a Z. Curls with a Z is pretty onomatopoetic of what it is with a Z.
Oh,
of what the font actually is.
That's the worst one.
The one that I think that has the Z that is among the worst fonts of all time.
Yeah.
Because its size is so dramatically different than everything else is. Zapfino! Zapfino it's just big and flashy and not very good, but all of the capital letters are handwritten-ish and 5 times the size of the rest of the letters, of the lowercase letters in this alphabet. So regardless of how much space you have, you can only do one word in Zapfino. Right. I think that you're not designed to write paragraphs in Zapfino. If you just have one word that you're going to do in Zapfino, all right, I understand it. It's not a terrible looking font. It's just the world's most annoying font to me.
I don't know if this is onomatopoeic. I don't think it is. Wingdings? Is it not? I just don't know. Wingdings are a mystery to me. I would always choose it by mistake. I don't know what I was looking for. And then I would start typing and think I was having a stroke as a child. Because all of a sudden
I tried to write my name and I just wrote 3 peace signs and
a mailbox.
Yeah. Can I tell you, Hal? When I was thinking about this episode, when I read what Kristen wrote, or what you wrote, there's only one correct answer. My first thought was, man, everybody thinks it's Comic Sans.
Yeah.
Screw that. Wingdings is way worse. I think Wingdings is going to be the font to beat. When have you ever used Wingdings?
But that's maybe what counts against it. It's the most useless, but you don't see it on the sign.
That makes it worse. I mean, that makes it the worst font.
It is a garbage, useless font.
Yeah. That has been like, did anyone ever memorize? And you had to memorize 2 different weird codes because there was the code for the lowercase letters and the code for the capital letters.
I have no idea what its functional use is. I'm sure somebody out there will know, but to me, the second clip art became popular, Wingdings became useless.
Arial is a garbage real world font because it's
Arial.
Arial is just the version of Helvetica because Apple didn't have rights to Helvetica. So they just made a fake version of Helvetica.
I don't know. It doesn't bother me.
See, it didn't bother me before I knew that. Now it does. Mac just didn't want to pay for Helvetica, so they just invented one. And I was like, no, screw that. That's just piracy. It does. I mean, it looks okay.
So your problem with it is that you know it's dark secret.
Exactly.
What about Times New Roman?
Times New Roman is fine to me. I don't know why people, because it seemed, I'm reading online that it is loathed. Times New Roman for me was the only acceptable font for writing papers.
Yes, all my I was going to say that exact same thing.
Every paper I ever wrote was in, and every time I saw someone come into class with a paper that was written in Helvetica font, I'd look at it and I'd be like, what? Were you trying to get a B? Yeah, I have no problem with it. I enjoy Times New Roman.
Yeah, I don't think a real world font is going to win.
No, Helvetica's great. The official Americana font.
Yep. Courier New is the font of scripts.
Mm-hmm. Courier New I like because everything is the same size. Mm-hmm. Side note, are you a serif fan?
Tell me what a serif is again.
Serif is, imagine a capital A.
Okay.
Now imagine a capital A with the little line across the bottom and the little lines on the bottoms of the legs, like the rating system for movies. I love collegiate font.
You like collegiate font?
That big, I think it's called Varsity.
Yeah.
Which is big, blocky, and Dido is another one of my favorite old-timey looking fonts.
Okay.
I love old books, so I like old book printing styles. You know what I mean? Like something that looks like it was done on a Gutenberg press. Yeah, I don't think any of the regular, everyday, daily use fonts, except maybe Futura. Futura's trying a little hard, are gonna win. My all-time favorite, Cooper Black, baby. That's the font of the cover of the old Garfield books.
Yeah,
right?
Sure. But I wouldn't want that in a sign.
Papyrus. Let's talk about Papyrus.
It's so bad. It looks like it's used in what, Avatar? Is that where it's most?
That was, well, yeah. Well, it was famous before that. That's what's weird.
I mean, it was used before that, but
it was annoyingly ubiquitous before Avatar just used it.
Yeah.
Did you see that SNL sketch?
Yes.
I never made the connection until I watched that.
Papyrus.
And Avatar is just papyrus. It's great. Bleeding Cowboys is another stupid one.
Yeah.
That's another one that gets, I'm not going to lie. I did a TV show where that was the logo font. It was the men's room. Fonts designed to look like they're from different eras are real hit or miss for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like Bell Bottom, the 60s font. You're like, come on, guys.
What about Joker Man? It's the one that looks like
an early 90s Mexican restaurant's menu.
It looks like that. It also looks like a ska band's logo.
Every letter looks like a piñata.
Yeah. And they've all got a lot going on.
Oh, Joker Man it's so bad.
ITC Matisse right there, where it just makes the words illegible.
I don't think that should be something that is codified and mass produced. You want to make something cartoony? Draw something cartoony.
Or use Comic Sans, like right here with the words, I'm sorry.
Man, I don't hate Comic Sans.
I think Comic Sans and, why don't you hate Comic Sans? It's so bad.
Because I think it is bad, but I think hating Comic Sans brings out an unpleasant cynicism in people. Yeah, the church is having a yard sale. Let them have a yard sale. You know what I mean?
Let me put it this way.
What?
You're okay with it in a church sign. What if the same sign is sent to you in an email and that's the text?
Don't you dare start messing with the font and the color and the size of an email's. You stay with default. Because if your computer sends it at default, my computer receives it at default. Mm-hmm. If you start messing with stuff, I'm going to start receiving weird stuff. I may have received an email in Comic Sans in like 95 and not since.
It's a very grandpa thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure they're looking for something fun, but it just it's displeasing.
Yeah.
The intent is almost negligible.
I just feel like it's the font that is used by well-meaning people who don't know better.
The intent is part of it. It's the passive-aggressive, and I think Comic Sans can be used passive-aggressively. It really bothers me for whatever reason when it's used to promote a comedy show.
Yeah.
They're like, hilarious show. They're like, well, let's use the fun. They should be laughing just reading this sign.
I feel like that is the use of Comic Sans that I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Because it has the word comic in it. And you think, I'm going to use this for my stand-up comic showcase. Clearly, this is the one for comics. Yeah, that bothers me because that says, hey, that come to this comedy show done by amateurs.
Yes.
Wingdings, I think, is a pointless code made for absolutely no one that someone at Microsoft thought would be interesting for 5 minutes before graphic user interfaces happened.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable saying that the final 3 of the worst fonts should be Papyrus, Comic Sans, and Wingdings?
Before we get there, we've got to talk about a-hole fonts.
Yes.
And I think there are a couple a-hole fonts that jump to the top of the list like, ugh, no thanks.
All right.
One, and I'm guilty of using this because I've made a lot of comedy show flyers. I've made a lot of posters for things. Impact. Impact is the font of memes. It's become so everywhere. Like just because you know that that the font is Impact and you know how to layer text on top of an image does not mean that what words you chose to put over what picture are automatically funny. But the world will share it like it is because we've been trained. This font on a picture means funny.
Yeah, it's visual shorthand.
Yeah.
Impact as a font is fine. It's certainly a little striking, a little bold, but it's clean. It's visually pleasant for the most part.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little too strong for use in everything.
Strong, bold, visually pleasant, but co-opted by the wrong people is Impact the swastika of fonts.
Yeah, that is, it's true. No, it's a very, very good point. Is it the worst font or is it just the font used by the worst people? Is that a distinction we should be making here?
Maybe because Comic Sans is often used by the most well-meaning people and Impact is often used by the most ill-meaning people. And because of that, I think that Impact is an inferior font to Comic Sans.
I don't think it belongs in the discussion of worst fonts. It has been misused the way the swastika or the original symbol that it's flipped from.
Right.
That is noted. I don't think it's a finalist.
No. Copperplate Gothic Logic. I don't know why. It's a personal thing. I just hate that font.
Let me take a look.
It looks like the font that a fraternity would use to be like, this one looks like it's carved in stone on like a beer t-shirt. To me, it also looks like the font of a corporation that does hostile takeovers. You know what's written in Comic Sans? There's cake in the break room. That's what's written in Comic Sans. Comic Sans is an earnest and sweet font.
It can also be, though, don't forget to recycle.
All right, it can be a little passive-aggressive.
That's the passive aggressivity is what drives me nuts.
I just want to give a shout out to a great sweet font.
Sweet fonts.
Brush script. I love me some brush script.
Oh, sweet fonts.
Sweet brush script.
So our finalists are Impact, Comic Sans, Papyrus.
I would not even put
Wingdings.
Comic Sans. I'll only put Comic Sans on there because everyone else does.
It's offensively bad to look at.
It is no worse than Wingdings, and Wingdings is infinitely worse.
It is a different kind of worse than Wingdings.
Yeah.
Wingdings is not a language that we need to use.
Then why is it a font? The whole point of a font, Hal, is to express ideas through visually pleasing manifestations of language.
Listen to me. Just put it aside for a second.
All right.
Where nobody's eliminating it.
All right.
I'm merely arguing that Comic Sans, for how ubiquitous it is and how passive aggressively it can be used.
See, I think you're seeing it more passive aggressively than I am because you work in an office.
I don't see it a lot because we have a design team.
That's
if they
fair.
saw Comic Sans, they would burn everything.
I know everybody wants it to be. I am if in this particular 12 Angry Men, I am the juror coming in and stabbing that identical knife into the table. Spoiler alert, that's how 12 Angry Men ends. I don't think Comic Sans is guilty. I think Wingdings did it. And I think Comic Sans is going to go to prison for it.
I have some evidence I'd like to enter. In 1992, only days after the release of Windows 3.1, it was discovered that the character sequence NYC, a frequently used abbreviation of New York City, in Wingdings was rendered as a skull and crossbones symbol, Star of David, and a thumbs up gesture. Ladies and gentlemen,
Wingdings is the worst font.
Is it possible that it's anti-Semitic?
NYC means kill the Jews in Wingdings.
This is terrible.
Yeah.
Wingdings is the worst font. Asked and answered, people of the world.
You know, if I could right now, I would write you all a note and tell you how much I appreciate you and thank you and love you all. And I would write that note in Comic Sans.
No, you wouldn't.
So you would know that I was earnest. For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin. Don't worry, everybody.
We got this.
We got this.